24th of August, we're looking at a 4-hour Bitcoin chart, and today everything is going to be decided. By everything is going to be decided today, I mean we'll see if the channel we've been watching over the weekend is the definitive one, or if it was just a weekend pause and we can expect it to look for that markup, which we're still a bit caught up on because of that sudden movement. It could go a bit higher. Today in the video, we're going to analyse that smart money strategy that's taken us by surprise and see how far it might go. In other words, whether we already have those benchmarks to start day trading, scalping or swing trading, or if, on the other hand, we need to wait a bit longer for it to be perfectly defined. I'm Mikel Vasquez, this is Bitcoin Daily Analysis, and what we do is look for, as I've said, those smart money strategies. That is, the people or institutions that move the chart aggressively and as they please. If you're looking for indicators, if you're looking for strategies beyond just finding out what the smart money is doing, it's very difficult to make money in trading. If you want to make money in a sustainable way, the only way is to see, or try to see, what those who are truly moving the market as they please are going to do. We do this across different time frames to see which Wyckoff phase we're in for each time frame. We start on a long-term basis, setting each candle to 1 week, and you're seeing that super aggressive and surprising markup candle that completely changed the structure. Every time a move like this happens, it's the long term that manifests itself in the smaller time frames. Normally, when we're doing intraday scalping or over weeks, 7-10 days, if you're interested in making money from trading, whether professionally or as a side job, I've designed a course where you'll stop looking at indicators and you'll understand what the market is really doing, what the strong hands are really doing, and you'll be able to make money the way they do. Let's continue with the analysis. We're always in a period of lateralization, and it works in a certain way. We're seeing those signals that send us one way, then another, but when a markup or a markdown kicks in, it's completely unrelated to those signals, and often when it explodes, you find yourself stuck in a position with a strategy based on lateralization, and suddenly that markup or markdown explodes. That's why we always need to keep in mind which Wyckoff phase we're in over the long term. And we have to bear in mind that at any given moment, for example, if that lateralization starts now, which would be a distribution in this area, we're going to study whether it's the right zone or not, or the clues we're being given. We have to keep in mind that at some point there's going to be a markdown. In this case, if this is a distribution, a surprise markdown. And you have to take that into account in any strategy you use. The possibility of it happening on any given day is remote, but over a period, you see, a lateralization usually lasts about 2 months or so. One of those days it's going to appear and catch us by surprise. Right, that said, we were in an accumulation phase until last week, a markup, and now we're studying whether it has already reached that distribution phase, or if on the other hand, it still has a bit more room to run. Right. Keeping that in mind, let's head into our headquarters on the 4-hour chart and see how it's played out. The thing is, these past few days have been the weekend, and over the weekend, whether it's accumulation, distribution, markup or markdown, almost always, I'd say 90% of the time, there's a sideways movement and very little action from Bitcoin. That's why we don't know for sure if the clues we're seeing are already indicating that distribution phase, or if there's still a bit more movement to come. The first thing we need to do is set up support and resistance levels that Bitcoin has respected in the past, as these are the most likely zones where that channel we're looking for might begin. On the downside, support would be at 74,000 and a bit higher up, 76,000. This one already has a high probability of defining the channel. On the upside, we have 79,000. You see that if this were a selling climax, it has surpassed it. It aligns with all the theory that one always looks for in Wyckoff. The thing is, you have to see in the movement, in the actual moment, if it aligns perfectly, because you know that the strong hands aren't going to execute the strategy in a way that you can see clearly, but rather it's understood once some time has passed. That's why you have to take every clue with a great deal of care. And to the upside, 82,000. which, as I told you last week, is the most interesting zone to carry out that distribution, because the last time the price reached that zone, it made a very small distribution, and it's very likely that it will reach there. So let's assume you know that the only element where the smart money clearly manifests itself is in the volume, because they can't disguise the volume. Their strategy is to establish, in a subtle way, little by little, buying in a cheap zone and selling in an expensive one. But they can't do it all at once, because otherwise the price would move in the exact opposite direction to the one the smart money wants. That's why they always do it in a very, very subtle way, and always making the retail investors, the small individual investors, believe that the movement is going to go in the other direction. That is their game. They play on the fear and greed of retail investors, and in the end, they always win. Right, we've seen, as you can see, the weekend was practically without any movement. This Sunday night, it looked like there was going to be an upward movement, and then it went back again to the area where they were, which we can say for now is the middle of the channel, of this provisional channel, which is the one formed with the support at 76,000 and the resistance at 79,000. In principle, what we can expect for these 7 days, with the few clues that have appeared over the weekend and during Sunday night, is for the price to look for the resistance at 79,000, and then we'll see what the price does there. That is to say, when it reaches 79,000, whether it looks for the 82,000 zone, which is the most interesting area to carry out that distribution, or conversely, it starts to drop and definitively marks this channel between 76,000 and 79,000. We also have to be very attentive to the breakout of any key element, that is to say any support, any resistance, or any midpoint of a channel with significant volume, like a footprint, a way of saying the strong ends are here. Those footprints are at least 1.5 billion on the 4-hour chart. I'm telling you that in principle for 7 to 10 days, the movement we can expect is upward, aiming for the 79,000 zone, unless that strong footprint appears and sends the price elsewhere. In principle, that's not what we're expecting. Let's look at intraday scalping to see how the week starts with those 15-30 minute charts, and you'll see that the movement is quite predictable. As soon as it's touched a zone that's been important previously, those wicks I always talk to you about appear, a bit more volume, though nothing too massive. Normally on a 15-minute chart we're talking about 125,000. You can see it's a bit below that, but it doesn't matter because we're close to the weekend and there's still a bit of that hangover effect. What we could expect at any moment when those three elements appear, arrival at a bounce zone, resistance zone or support zone, which I explain how to locate properly in my course, the appearance of pullback and breaking signals and volume coming in, is an ideal, absolutely ideal moment to enter on the opposite side. In other words, we saw these signals here, so it would be a case of going long. We've seen them again here. It would also be an ideal moment to go long. We're going to be keeping a very close eye on things today, Monday at 3:30, because you know that 3:30 Spanish time is a key time. The New York Stock Exchange opens, and there are certain funds that place their positions, and many of them are, in an overlapping way, related to Bitcoin. Then usually Bitcoin produces a significant movement at that time, which can signal the break of some support or resistance and give us a definitive clue as to what we might see during this week. I'm also setting you the August challenge. As you can see, I entered yesterday, as always. I started on the 1st of August with a $500 account. I'm making one entry a day, a micro entry. I'm only looking for $15, $20. So you can see that simple trading is possible. Even this month, entering against that very aggressive movement, we still have the account in profit. Not as much as the July challenge, but you can see I also sent you the TP when they sent it to me. Now the account is at $602. I'll be raffling off the excess over 500 among everyone who signs up on the mxc.com exchange and makes their first deposit. MXC will give you a $50 reward once you're an active user, and I'll hold a draw for those 102 now. Let's see if we can reach at least $200. I also wanted to mention that the Telegram group, the VIP Telegram, where I post the trades I make daily, already has 100 users, as I've been saying. Now, you can't just join freely anymore. The only way to get in is through the MEXC exchange, with the same condition I mentioned to you. You sign up for MEXC, make your first deposit, and I'll give you free access to the VIP Telegram for a month, so you can see how both the trades group and the discussion group work. And then, once a month has passed, if you want to stay, it would be €19 a month. I'm Mikel Vazquez, and this is Daily Bitcoin Analysis. I really appreciate you watching this video, and as I always say, this is not financial advice. Rather, I am sharing my experience with you after more than 15 years in professional trading. See you tomorrow.